Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Venturelli, and we have two very, very special guests today. Guys, you know how we operate here at New Theory Podcast. We are about entrepreneurship, business, and lifestyle, and we do hit some tough subjects because we do, all of us go through some hard times in our life, whether it be with our parents, our siblings, our children. And here at New Theory Podcast, we want to touch on those subjects. And today, again, we have two very special guests. We have Christine and Natalie Naiman. Guys, how are you today? Thank you for coming on New Theory Podcast. Christine is the author of the book About Natalie. It's a memoir after her daughter's long battle with heroin addiction and the trials with that. So, guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. How are you both doing today?
Thanks for having us.
We're good.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. So let's dive into it. And first, I want to speak to Christine. I want to talk to you about how you came about writing. I know what the book is about, but what made you want to write this book, and who are you looking to reach?
Well, what made me want to write the book is simply the pain that I was having when I found out and experienced being the mother of an addict. I felt so alone. I felt so, I'd heard the stigma. I had heard how people talked about addicts, had heard about how people talked about families of addicts, parents of addicts. And, it's a place I never expected to be, but I was right in the middle of it all. And I felt so alone. I felt isolated. I felt stigmatized. I felt, the shame, the embarrassment, all of that. And then when I thought about it, I thought, I'm not alone. I watch the news. I see, read the newspapers. I'm not alone. And I thought, maybe by sharing my pain and letting people get to know my beautiful daughter and my family, I can reach out to other people, other parents, loved ones, and make them feel not quite so alone too.
Mm-hmm. And at what point, did you notice something in your daughter's life, and how old was she, and when did you first find out? Let's talk about that.
Well, it's hard to pinpoint. I can say that, the big wake up moment, or the big wake up moment was Natalie was 15, and I got a call from the school that she had been caught with heroin at high school. Now that was obviously the most shaking, undeniable moment. Looking back, though, I was able to realize that there were a lot of signs that things were not quite
prior to high school.
Yeah, definitely. But again, I saw them, but I didn't see them. I saw them. I didn't know what I was looking at. I thought I was looking at a lot of just growing pains, a lot of, she's becoming independent, but becoming, maybe secretive, pulling away, isolating herself, mood swings, erratic behavior, erratic eating.
But a parent would take that as a teenage daughter.
I did.
Right?
I was wrong, but I did. Yes.
Right. I mean, again, I had some family situations with the same thing that you went through. And again, it's chalked up to being, oh, they're 13. Oh, they're 14. They're 15. Hey, they're going through mood swings and puberty and all that stuff. So
exactly.
I can see where you were coming from. But then, okay, first, your daughter was caught, right? But
Right.
Prior to her being caught, you had no inkling, didn't find anything in the home, didn't see anything, hear anything.
Well, no, I saw, but again, I didn't know what I was looking at. I mean, just, literally days before Natalie got caught, I was cleaning up her room, and there were signs, there were things, there were there were lighters, there were, that kind of stuff, but I didn't know what I was looking at. And then when Natalie did get caught at the high school, and I went, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, people are going to ask. I have to take this back. Well, people are going to ask, "What do you mean you didn't know what you were looking at?"
Well, gosh, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm going to be
No, but please don't be embarrassed. This is real.
honest. There were spoons in the room. There were spoons in her bathroom. But I just thought, we were being messy. We were eating we were eating up in her bedroom,
Gotcha.
that kind of thing. The lighters, they were always, according to her, for some other purpose or reason, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then, when you're faced with the truth, then all of those,
now it starts to match up.
It all starts matching up, and you can't believe kind of how stupid you were.
Natalie, I want to touch with you as we progress in this story. When did you first get exposed to this drug? How old were you?
So when I first started doing opiates, I started doing pills. I was probably about 12.
12. Okay, we got to dig deeper. How were you exposed to pills at 12?
Okay, so whenever I was 10, my grandfather had died. He had battled cancer for a bit of time, and a couple years after that, I was going through his stuff, just sentimentally. Was at my grandparents' house and going through his stuff, and how sometimes it still smells like them and stuff like that. But I came across a bunch of pills whenever I was going through just this one drawer, and he was a very strong man, so I feel like he tried his hardest not to always use everything, probably partially due to just it's hard, and it's hard.
So you came across, how did you know what they were?
So I really didn't at first. I saw them, and I I knew that pills could make people feel better, and I actually took their names down and looked them up online. And
okay. I'm sorry. How old are you right now?
12. Or now?
Yeah, now.
Yeah, 24.
24. Okay, so you had, so here's the difference. So your mother and I, we didn't have access to go search the internet on something we found.
Yeah.
But you guys did. So we're talking 2010, right? You said 2010?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. Okay. So you go on the internet, you research it, and boom.
Yeah, I found some were muscle relaxers, some were sleeping pills, some were, opiates, and I tried them, and I, generally liked, the sleeping pills. The one, it for some reason, it would just erase the last 2 hours of memory from whenever I'd finally go to sleep. It didn't matter how long I stayed up. For some reason, it just cut off the last 2 hours of memory. That was a little I wasn't a huge fan of that. But then the opiates, they made me feel better physically, but
that's what they're supposed to do.
I think that the hook for me was how they made me feel mentally, or how they didn't make me feel mentally. They just helped with some thoughts and feelings I was having.
Okay, so at 12, that's it's a young age. You don't know why you're feeling what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
I guess when we get older, we still need help, but we kind of understand life a little more, right, than a 12-year-old. 12-year-olds, why am I feeling this way? Why am I being rejected? Why am I being called this and that? And very sensitive, right? Exactly. What was going through your life? Was there an emptiness at home? Was there an emptiness when you went to school as far as socially? Or was it just a natural feeling that you just didn't know what it was? Or was something going on in your life?
So it was kind of a little bit of all of that. I had always felt that way since I was very little. I remember having not so great thoughts as young as like 5 and 6. And like you said, you don't know quite why you feel that
Right.
way. And it sometimes seems like, other people get this like guide to life that you didn't
Yeah.
get. And
Yeah.
I felt that way like a lot.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the best at making friends. I was having some trouble with bullying, and I just felt like, like even at home, I just felt like I was different from everyone for some reason. I just felt like everyone just seemed to have this life thing figured out just a little more than I did.
Yeah. Right. And even at a young age. You had friends? You had a social network?
It depended on the time. As I got older, that stuff got better. As I hit probably 7th or 8th grade, I started getting a couple friends. It wasn't until high school that I actually gathered some pretty decent friends. But in middle school, especially, it was hard because even people that would be my friend one week, the next week would be telling like all my secrets to try and fit in with another group of people that maybe didn't necessarily like me or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely understand that. So Christine, let's get back to you on, so your daughter's going through this.
Mhm.
Let's step aside from the pills that she's now taking, or then, but you know what I mean, in the storyline that she's now taking. Step aside from that, but socially, did you see something was different? I mean, I'm a parent, right? But my kids are young,
Right.
and you know, if I see my kid, well, I hope, right? I hope that I react in a way. Hey, honey, well, let's go do something. Let's go see a movie. Let's go out. Let's go for a walk. Let's go work out. I'm going to try and, if no one's going to be there, I'm going to be there. So were you guys close enough, or was she pushing you away? Were you trying to say, hey, were you seeing that she was lonely? She was separating herself in middle school. She really didn't have a social network. Were you seeing those things? And if you were you doing something, or you didn't know?
I wasn't, obviously I wasn't completely unaware of it, and I, definitely wasn't neglectful. I mean, I think we definitely, I noticed that she was struggling a bit. I didn't see the degree as to which she struggled. I mean, she comes from you know, in defense, a good home, a complete home. No abuse, no neglect, nothing like that. Were we perfect? Absolutely not. But as far as school goes, school can be a tough place.
Yeah.
The kid world is not an easy place. I think that we tried to, make the most of it, make the best of it. It's not an excuse that, it's not an excuse. We, checked in with the school, checked in with the teachers, those sorts of things.
I was just about to say, I remember, like I told her that I was having trouble meshing with this one teacher, and she immediately wanted to have a meeting at the school with the teacher and the principal. And I remember at the moment I was like, no, like that's too much. Like, I just want to make it worse. But, if I was the parent in that situation, I would have done the same thing like she did, march down there, demand a meeting, and, try and fix what she could. And it's unfortunate when you have a lot of compounding issues, because you help one area, but then there's still all these other areas that
Of course.
So.
Of course. So now we're in high school.
Yeah.
And Natalie, back to you. Now we're starting to get our network out there socially, right?
Yeah.
So this whole time before, well, you're 12, so you're just before high school. I mean, when you ran out of the pills that you've taken, you couldn't get more, but you remember the feeling that you had. So now as you get older, you're not continuing to take the pills, but now you're looking to get back to that place, correct? You weren't continuing to take those because you have no access to them. Am I correct about that?
So I began taking the pills, and I didn't really know much about addiction or withdrawal. So I was taking the pills for like several months, and I had a online friend say something about it. So I decided that I was going to try and stop, and I had no clue about withdrawal. So that was
Oh,
quite the
yeah.
shock.
Mhm.
And I was thinking back about how, like, I managed to go through like weeks of withdrawal without, setting off too many alarm bells. But I realized it was during the summer, so it's not like I had to miss school. And, a couple weeks could just be like a bad flu. But I remember after that, like, I wanted to try and stay away from that. But
Mhm.
that didn't really end up lasting. And so a couple years later, that same online friend, he had gotten into selling and dealing heroin. And
Wait, well, let's go back. Let's get. You were clean for
short period of time, like
two,
probably
two, 2 years,
maybe like a year.
a year.
Yeah, maybe. Like because, it was intermittent.
And when you say online friend, are we talking Facebook? We talking
This
right
was back in the day, so I met him on Tumblr. So
Tumblr?
yeah. But of course, after we met
Is
on
Tumblr?
Tumblr,
Tumblr's a dating site. I'm sorry if I
no, that's Tinder. Okay.
Tinder. Tinder's a
That's
dating site.
Tinder. Yeah. No, Tumblr is basically it's another social networking site. It's
Okay.
basically you run what it's called your own blog, and you can make your own posts, but you can also repost
Gotcha.
things.
Okay.
And
So this friend you're keeping in touch with, and now he's selling heroin, and so
yeah,
now the conversation comes up, and he decides to sell to you and mail it to you and what have you.
yeah. So he lived a state or two over, um,
Okay. So
and we actually began having an online relationship. And he didn't want to like tell the people in his life about that because at that time it was more so weird to meet somebody online. Like it wasn't
yeah.
as normal as it was today, and he was like nervous about ridicule from that. But he lived pretty far, so about maybe like a 6-hour drive. So he only came and visited a handful of times, and the
And
second
he
time,
was an older person.
couple years, yeah, he was like probably 2 years older than me.
Okay.
And then the one time he came to visit, I was curious. The stuff had been causing some issues between us, like him doing it, him selling it, and stuff like that. And I was curious, and I wasn't. People ask like, "Were you like afraid of it?" And I really wasn't, because like I, watched
So
him.
when he came to meet you, he brought it.
Yeah,
Right.
he actually, he didn't want me to do it like he didn't want to give it to me while he was there. So right
Yeah.
before he left, he hid it somewhere because he didn't want me doing it before he could get back and we could Skype, so he could make sure like I didn't, die.
Mm.
So after he got back, I went and he told me where it was, and I found it, and I went on
And
a
you,
call with him, and I did it. And honestly, at the time, like I didn't kind of get it, I didn't notice,
yeah.
like the whole thing. But then a few months later, when I tried it for the second time with somebody else, I actually was looking for pills from that person. And honestly, heroin's a lot easier to find than pills. So
Yeah.
he was like, I can't really find any, but I can find heroin. And I wasn't really afraid of it because I already tried it.
And so there
Rest
comes
from there.
the sale. Right. Okay. So Christine, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to call you mom. So Christine, at this point, there's a boyfriend involved. There's an online, and with parents, right?
I didn't understand that.
Sorry, this is how cell phones are nowadays. They hear when you're talking, right? And now Google picks it up and wants to do a search.
Our TV does that.
Getting a little weird now with our devices. So, your daughter is her social life. You don't know where it is. She's having issues. You cannot put everything together. Hey, it's online. All the kids are online. You're setting it up to be, it's puppy love. The boy's coming by, right? I'm assuming you're meeting the boy at your house. You're not meeting him you're meeting him outside the house.
No, no, she met him outside of the house. And one time when they had arranged it when we were away, and she was home with her grandmother and babysitter.
So did you even know about the online relationship?
Not to the degree that it was. No, not
Right.
to the degree
Again.
that it was. I mean, she was
Right.
smart enough to keep that a little bit quiet. And
Gotcha. Okay.
no,
All right.
not until it it exploded, and then it turned into where exactly did you
So
get this?
let's get to there. The day you found out, again, I'm sorry, how old were you, Natalie, when your mother found out?
I keep trying to do the math. I
15.
I think I was 14 actually at the time.
14.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is a serious age to be getting involved with that. Any age is a serious age. 14 is.
My treatment centers, they say that it's becoming more and more common. The age is becoming younger and younger. And
Right.
the rehab facilities I went to, the one therapist actually wanted to talk to me because I was the youngest patient there, and he said that this is what the future is becoming, unfortunately, and I'd rather be prepared. I'd rather get all the knowledge I can from you
To help people, help parents. Right. Correct. Okay. So, Christine, you find out. Who calls you? Give us that story. Give us that day.
Oh yeah, it was just a day I'll never forget. It was early in the morning. I was out. The kids had gone to school, and the high school called. And I looked down, and I was surprised, but I thought, okay, somebody just forgot something, or a permission slip, or anything. Had never ever been Natalie had never been in trouble before. None of my kids I had never been called to the school. So it was just one of those moments, and it was, Mrs. Naaman, you need to come to the high school. Your daughter's in trouble. And what does that even mean? What do you mean?
Right.
Trouble? And they said significant trouble. And
Right.
I pushed, and they pushed back, and then finally, she said, it's substances. And again, I'm shocked. I'm thinking, what in the world are even substances?
And even then, you'd be thinking, oh, what, pot? I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
Cigarette? I don't know. Right.
Exactly. So I called my husband. We were very close. We were only a mile away from the high school. We, fly to the high school, get to the office, and every parent's nightmare, the most horrific sight. There is Natalie, there is the administration, and there are the police. So it was just horrible. I mean, I went in and sat down, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing, couldn't believe what they were saying. And it's hard because, like I said, there's such the stigma. I mean, they're looking at you, you're saying, my God, I didn't know. And they're looking at you, either
they're looking at you like, we're going to your house to search your house.
Well, you're an idiot, or you're a liar.
Right. Exactly.
They're not looking at you, I mean, one of two ways, and neither one of them are fondly, for sure. Mm-hmm. I think most of them thought that I just was lying. But then, one did say, Mrs. Naaman, do you know what heroin looks like? And I was like, no. And he pulled up a Google image on his phone and showed it to me. And I recalled at that moment, I was like, my God, I think it was the night before, I was doing something in her room. She was asleep, and I remember seeing, whether it was an empty stamp pack or what, mm-hmm. that I had seen, that had no idea.
And now you know.
Right. And now I know exactly how deep we were.
Wow. So, Natalie, how did you get caught?
Okay, so actually, like I said, by that point, I started making friends. I started actually making some good friends. I started going to a bigger school, and there was more people there, so there was more of being able to find your crowd a little bit, and the people at that time that I hung out with, the majority of them didn't do anything worse than, smoking weed or drinking. Mm-hmm. I was actually kind of like the odd man out there, But I was trying to reel that in a bit, I was trying to reel that in a bit. I had, tried to stay away from heroin and actually had for a decent bit. But like she said the night before, me and her got into it because, weed isn't as discreet as like heroin sometimes, at least in the beginning, because it smells, it lasts long in your system and stuff like that. So she smelled something. And she was suspicious, and I knew she was gonna check my room. Because like she was a like involved parent. So I knew she was gonna check my room. So I was like, all right, I need to purge the room,
Gotcha.
So I ended up, like she said, like finding little bits of paper that fell behind whatever from maybe stamp bags, and finding empty packs of cigarettes, and I had a alcohol bottle that I emptied out and stuff like that. And I ended up remembering, because I wasn't, like I said, I really hadn't touched the stuff for a few months, but I remembered that the last time I did, I thought like I hid just one stamp bag in a book somewhere. So I was like, oh, I remember that. And usually if you are like actively using to a certain extent, you're not just going to forget you have something over there. But I, wasn't, like I said, I was trying to roll it back a little bit. And so I picked out the book and I shook it out and it fell out. So I was like, all right. So I stuck it in my cigarette, thing. And I made 2 backpacks. I made one that I was going to throw out everything in it, and then one that was my school backpack. And I asked my brother, hey, I need to throw some stuff away. Not here. I need to throw some stuff away before school, but we ended up like being late for school. So I just brought it with me because I just figured it was not
So who ended up asking you to go through the bags, or did you throw it out and somebody caught you? Or
so what happened is that I had this one teacher that we had a decently close relationship to this time. She was attached to my homeroom, like she had a conjoining room. And she was friends with my homeroom teacher at the time. So she would often come into my homeroom, and she knew about like a lot of the stuff I did. Like she knew about some of the boyfriends I had that were too old, and a few of the, I would tell her like, if I snuck out the night before, stuff like that. And I remember she came in and she said, oh, like your eyes look red. And I remember being like, because like I didn't do anything that morning. I just remember being like, well, I, didn't sleep very well. And she kept pushing me. So I honestly lied. I was like, I snuck out. I didn't sleep, like, because I just wanted it to be over. But I think she just felt that I got a little bit of an attitude with her. And I thought it was over. Went back, finished homeroom, went to my first period class. And a few minutes into class, there's like class like didn't even start yet. Like we're just waiting for the bell. And the second the bell hits, there's security knocking at the door. And I remember like trying to be like calm and trying to be like hopeful and being like, oh, what are the odds that they're here for me? And if I knew that they were for sure there for me, I don't even know what I would have done. But I just froze because I don't know. I was just really hoping that they weren't going to say my name.
So inevitably they do approach you, and of course they go through your bags.
Yeah, they call me down to the office, and they say that they can either, let us search the bag or we can involve more police. And I was just like, all right, just search the bag. Just save us some time.
Right. Okay. So now we're at this point. You're 14, right? Yep. 14. We're at this point. Your parents are here, and the principal, the security, and so forth. Okay. So you're too young to be, I think you can be arrested on a juvenile standpoint, right? So you were arrested as a juvenile. Did they offer you rehab, drug program? Did you go to juvie?
No, I did not.
First offense.
My probation officer did say that she tried very, very, very hard to send me to juvie, but that the judge wouldn't let her, like you said, on my first offense.
Gotcha.
And she actually asked me, she was like, what, what, you do drugs because, you think it makes you cute. And I remember being like, who does drugs? Who does heroin? Heroin doesn't make you cute,
Yeah, right.
And
No, but at that age, kids
like
will do things because they think it may be
that.
cool, or it's peer pressure sometimes. And
Yeah.
the neighborhood you guys are in, it's middle class neighborhood. It's
It's an upper class.
upper class neighborhood. Yeah. So that's now that we're finding out, those neighborhoods actually have a lot of activity
Sure.
with this, right? But people don't think that, right? They think it's for the inner cities, but that's not the case.
What's interesting about you saying that is, so like you said, I'm sitting there in the office, and at this point my parents hadn't got there yet. It's me, it's the principals, it's the school resource officer, who's actually not the normal school resource officer. When the normal officer came back, he was like, "What did you do? I was gone for one day."
Right. They want to know you, right?
But yeah, so there was that cop, and they called in a couple of extra cops, and then I remember all of them saying, they were like, "What's going on? Like, were you just bored? Like, you come from a nice neighborhood, you come from
family, right.
Like, can like, some families aren't as well off." And I remember just sitting there being like, like, those things don't always mean everything. It doesn't necessarily mean you're happy or
right. Did you feel at home there was some distance between you, your father, your mom, or anybody else in the household that lived with you guys? Was there some kind of distance that you just wanted to be alone? You felt like nobody, cared about you? What did you feel with your family at that point? Or again, was there absolute love? You felt loved, you felt appreciated, you felt wanted. How were you feeling at that point?
Not great, but like I said, there was an FBI guy that walked in.
No, I'm sorry. No, I meant like in your household.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, he said drugs don't discriminate even from good households.
No, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, and it doesn't, and even in a good household, you can feel alone. Especially when you're harboring such a secret. And honestly, like, at that point, I had struggled with big depression issues, and I didn't know how well I was going to handle those. So I felt maybe it'd be easier on them if I.
But you did feel love, and you did feel that you were wanted with the people in your home.
Yeah.
Okay. You felt safe in your home.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're lucky. That's a rarity. A lot of kids don't have that. Okay. A lot of kids don't have that love, that comfort zone, that safety zone within their own home. So I would say, yes, for you, escaping in this way is rare in that kind of upbringing, right? I would say, maybe not in that neighborhood. But Christine, let's get back to you for a moment here. So now your husband and you find out, you're shocked, you're sad. Now you're just like on damage control. We got to save our daughter. We don't want her in trouble. We don't want her kicked out of school. We get that. But when you're sitting there and because we want to talk, I want this podcast here to be about the relationships. Yeah. Okay. The law is going to do what the law is going to do. Okay. But I want us here to talk about you and this is your husband at the time and still is, or okay. So you and your husband are together. You lay your head down at night with your husband, or you sit down at the kitchen table. What are you reviewing as a couple, as a mother and a father? What's the discussion there? And forget the legalities. I know we want to save our daughter, but you had to now brainstorm where we went wrong, what we were not looking, what you were doubting yourself as a parent. Bring us to that moment. with you and your
Oh,
husband?
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, we were right there. We were right there with that in that horrific moment. And we fought over the blame. I mean, I said, it's my fault. It's my fault. I was right there.
Oh,
I did this.
let's touch on that. So you were saying it's my fault. You were taking that on. You were
Sure,
taking that.
I'm right there, and I'm not. Where was I? I mean, where was I? I know where I was. I was right there. And what were we doing? We were doing?
No finger pointing. No, you
Absolutely not.
you did this.
We were, I mean, only at ourselves. I mean, where were we? What we were doing? We were doing what every other family does. We're going to church. We're going to the pumpkin farm. We're sitting on Santa Claus's lap. We're taking dance classes, gymnastics classes, all of that. I said, I would say to him, it's me, it's me, it's me. I was right there. And he would say to me, no, it's me, it's me, it's me. I was too busy building a career. I wasn't there enough. So we would fight over the blame. We would fight over that. You go with, where did we go wrong? Whether we went wrong together, whether we went wrong separately, for a long time.
Were you, well then, okay.
Mhm.
An affectionate household, hug, kiss. How are you? How was your day?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
That's part of the reason I have to, say that is a part of the reason that I wrote the book, because people feel that there is a stereotypic household. There's a stereotypic child. There's a stereotypic mother, father, all of that. There just isn't. There just isn't. Like Natalie pointed out, drugs don't discriminate. The whole thing, you're not going to find, a family that looks like, quote unquote, that family that everybody can tell that that's the little girl who goes into drugs, and that's what the mom looks like. That's what the dad looks like. And it just isn't like that. And again, that's why I wrote the book, because I thought, let people get to know us. Let people get to know my beautiful daughter, Natalie, and let them see that she's not a monster. She's not a bad girl. She's not a monster. And, then eventually I kind of got around to, well, let them get to know me and my family and my, my other children. And
how many other children are there?
2 boys, one older, one younger. Yeah,
Okay,
one older than Natalie,
middle child.
And but I thought, let people get to know us and understand us, and maybe we can beat down some of that stigma.
Right. So when you, so now did you continue? So you got caught at 14, young age to even be touching that. And from what I have spoken to past addicts or addicts, that it's not something that you, like, literally 20 years later, something can go off. And I don't know the studies from somebody from such a young age where you're experimenting and how that affects you later on, as opposed to somebody who's like in a young adult and they're going years and years and years, and then they're in the scene with their friends are doing it, right? So you were kind of more of a loner doing it at such a young age, and I don't know how that carries, but did you go back into it?
Well, I wasn't like necessarily a loner, just the friends that I had at the time weren't into stuff to that degree.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I mean.
But the thing is after I got arrested, like, even this one guy that I already had hung out with, he was like, oh, why didn't you tell me you did heroin? I sell it. And I was like, because that's not the first thing I tell people, at least not back then.
But did you go back into it? Did you go back?
Yeah, I did. Right off the bat, like, trying to deal with, the bullying got, like, I finally thought, like, I was kind of out of that bullying stage because I, reached to a bigger school. But that came right back down,
and how long would you say your string into this life went? How long was the streak?
So I ended up, it was only probably no more than 6 months, because
At what age?
This was from 14 turning into 15, because right after I turned 15, I ended up being placed on probation. So, like, I was going to start getting drug tested, and if I was going to pop, it was going to lead to more repercussions. And so I had to figure out a way to stop.
And after that, you didn't go back into it?
No, I did. Yeah,
Oh,
I
you
did.
did.
I did. I went back into it. I went through
Right.
just
So how long did that last? 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I mean, you're what, 21 now?
literally 22. Literally
22.
at no point from ages 12 to 22 did I get probably anywhere close to a year. Like
She's 24 now.
I'm 24 now, and I have about a little more than 2 years. But in that 10-year period, I didn't go more than probably a year without, and that's being very generous, because I feel like every time
Were you an everyday user?
not all the time. Whenever I turned 16 is about whenever I became an everyday user. I had gotten a job, and a ton of, like, it was kind of insane how many people there were doing heroin. Like, literally there would be times where the entire staff at that time, except maybe one person, were all pitching their money together to go get drugs, and I was the youngest out of everybody. But
And you were able to go to the next town and get it? Or at this point, are you ordering it online? Or
so, like I said, I'd be at work with a bunch of older people that were getting it with cars, so I would just,
but
whoever
around your area, they would get
yeah,
it.
or like, whoever got off work first, you just gave them the money. They went and got it, and they
But it was a local, it was a
brought it
local
back to
deal.
work,
Right, right. And so now, Ma, at this point, I know the story. She's lying, she's lying. She's not coming home. She's not answering her phone. You and your husband, she's on it. She's back on it. I know she is, right? Is this what's going into discussion?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a long. I mean, it was years. It was
The
years.
long road.
It wasn't years of just. I don't want to indicate that we were just, sitting around, doing nothing and watching it. It was
No, right.
inpatient rehabs, outpatient rehabs, clinics. It was psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, counselors, medical doctors.
Stealing, getting involved. You're missing jewelry. You're missing money.
Yeah, I mean, it was everything. I mean, she was desperate and doing things that, things that desperate people do. We were desperate as well and did what desperate people do. I mean, it was a very, it just goes around. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's not a straight line. I mean, to get to where, the great place that Natalie is today, not a straight line at all. I mean, it was 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Every time we thought we were onto something, we were onto nothing. We were back to where, finding things or good streaks of where she was home and present, and then all of a sudden missing again.
Right, right. Now, and what was the longest streak that your daughter went missing where you didn't know where she was? 3 days, 4 days, 2 weeks?
Probably about 3 days of not knowing, where she was. I mean,
I'd usually send a text.
There was always maybe like a little text here or there just to keep me knowing that it was, I mean, truly just knowing.
Now you're still and here's another thing the parents have to deal with, right? You think you're going to shut your kid's cell phone off. Well, what happens? Now you don't know where they are. I don't know if you gave your daughter a car, but you take the car away. Now she can't get to work. Like, I mean, did you give your daughter things that now you felt like, oh my God, if I take that away, where's she going to go or what's she going to do? Right. You're torn, right?
Always. I mean, it's easy when you're on the outside looking in, don't give her any money and, take that cell phone away and strip her of everything and throw her out in the street. And,
right. And now what?
I mean, first of all, that's not me. That's not my husband. That's not our family.
And that's not the answer.
Thank you for saying that. It's not the answer. And I don't believe it. We didn't get to the good point that we are at right now by that being our answer. So I don't think we were wrong. But like you said, we shut off the cell phone. Well, how's she going to get home? Yeah. How is she going to reach me? Right. I mean, I realize the cell phone is gives her the ability to reach all the wrong people, but the cell phone gives her the ability to reach all the right people.
You find her. Right. God forbid. Right. Exactly. And then when she asks for money, you think, well, my daughter, I don't want my daughter not eating something. She needs money for lunch, or she's going to be working all day. She needs money for dinner or whatever. I got to give her money,
Exactly. exactly. And Natalie said to me one time, people who are not in the middle of the situation, don't give her money, don't give her money. Well, I don't think just not having money. I said to her, well, if you don't have money, how do you get it? What do you do? And she said one of the most chilling things that you can say to a mom. She said, well, there's always other ways to get it.
And we know what that means.
Well, then, I'm like, here, not $20, take 40.
Yeah.
I'm a mom with a mom's heart.
That's true. And again, people in that condition, and it's not just for, heroin, it's people with other addictions. They're going to do the same thing to get what they want to get that fix,
Right.
And the answer, and again, let's say, I'll say this again and again, that is not the answer. Kicking people on the street is not the answer. Leaving them out in the rain by themselves is not the answer. Help is the answer. Okay. Help, caring about somebody and being there for somebody. And it's a battle. It's a war.
It is.
It's a war. It's sleepless nights. It's loss of, you're numb, right? You're walking through the day in a fog. And I'm talking about mom here. I'm talking about Christine. You're walking through your day in a fog. Where's my daughter? What is she going through? Who's she with? You want to talk about lonely, Natalie. I'm not being a therapist here, but I'm just saying that's a lonely feeling for a parent. And I'm sure now, at 24 years old, you realize that, of course, right? I mean, but that is such a lonely feeling. And I definitely understand where you're coming from. So now let's get to where we're writing the book. You expressed on why you wrote the book, but let's talk about when you put pen to paper and you decided to say, hey, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell my daughter's story, my family's story. How did you start it? Is it a journal? Is it a legal pad? You went to the store and saying, here we go, I'm going to start a book. Was it not even a book? Was it just, again, a daily journal?
Right.
Express how that happened.
First, I had the idea and I thought, maybe I always thought what I would write. I always express myself in writing. I thought, I'll write this, but I kept thinking, when I have my happy ending, then I'll write the book. And then I realized, no, I need to reach.
Did you always have a book in you? Meaning, forget this had happened in your life. Did you always have this feeling? I have a story in me. I don't know what the story is, but I have a story in me. And then, bam.
Sure. And and the story that you're meant to write sometimes is the last story you want to write. It's the last.
Wow. Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
The story that you were meant to write is the last story you want to write. I mean, it really is, because
that's powerful. That's
powerful. And I said to Natalie, look, I want to write. I want to write this from my perspective. Do I have your permission? And she was amazing. And she said yes. And I told her why I wanted to write it. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And it was just a experience after experience, little snippets, little vignettes, types of things. And there was one thing missing. I said, this is my point of view, and about Natalie is really 90% my point of view, but people need to hear from her as well. And Natalie is like I said, I know I'm biased, but she's a brilliant girl. She's creative, and she's a better writer than I am. And I said to her, what can you offer me? And she said, I think I can do some poetry. That took me by surprise, but I said, okay, please. And Natalie was able to offer many, many poems, and I was able to place the poems in between my writing.
Oh, that's great.
The readers get the mom perspective, but they also hear the very, very important voice of what Natalie was going through as well, because the poems are placed in between the writings.
That is great. That is great. And so the book is the journey. It takes us from the beginning as a mom. I have a daughter, I have a family, I have a husband, and you're taking the journey of your life. And that takes us to the moment of this happening and then your life in that, correct? Chapter by chapter, right? From the beginning to the middle, and then where you guys are today, obviously.
Well, actually, the end of the book was kind of a cliffhanger because it was finished before Natalie was completely in recovery. So we do have, thank God, we have our happy ending.
Good, great. And so how did you know how to get the book started? I mean, besides the writing part, get it published, get it printed. How did you know how to do any of that?
Well, I've written before. I wrote a few books before, and I went to some friends who at HCI, Health Communications Incorporated, down in Florida, and I brought the book to them, and I said it's the most real, the most it's raw, it's real, it's candid, it'll make you shiver, it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, but it's everything. It's everything I've got, and I just decided, as Natalie did when she gave us the poetry, we weren't going to do it unless we were going to go all in, because we feel truly, people spot a fraud a mile off, and we weren't going to insult anybody. I wasn't going to insult the moms, the parents, the loved ones, and Natalie was going to be real with her poetry, and that's what we did.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're in a good place. Your other two sons, good, around, healthy. Everybody's around.
Yep, everybody's fine. We are intact. We stuck together, and we went through a lot together. But it was all worth it because we've got our Natalie back.
I want to touch on two more things here before we go. Natalie, give me your scariest moment throughout this point in your life that you said, "Oh my God, I gotta stop. This is it." Something that really scared you. Something that you can tell viewers now that can really maybe hit home.
Okay, I have probably two things that come to mind. I feel like one of those things is that at first, I kind of justified the using as, well, if heroin kind of saved my life, because I felt like if I didn't use at the time, I wasn't going to be able to deal with some of the stuff I was going through. And I, felt like if I didn't have that, I would have most likely hurt myself by then. But then it got to the point where I still felt that way, but I also had a drug addiction to boot, and it just was no longer in any way helping. And then also, whenever it got to the point where, one, I had moved on to fentanyl, and the heroin stopped working. So if I couldn't find fentanyl, I was kind of doomed to be in withdrawal, because it's just so much stronger than the heroin. And then my veins, they became shot, and I remember spending, no lie, 12 hours in a bathroom just poking myself and being so in withdrawal, but having the drug right there, but just not being able to get it inside of me.
I'm sorry, is this the heroin or fentanyl?
At that point, it would have been fentanyl by the time, probably.
And you knew the dangers of fentanyl, how.
Yeah, but you know what? Since that was my drug of choice, it wasn't.
I agree. To you, it's not dangerous. I
had built a tolerance, and then that's another thing. In a weird, sad way, I found comfort in having something close by that, if I wanted to, leave this earth, I could have an easy way out. And then when it got to the point where, my tolerance was so high that all I could do is get off sick. I realized I couldn't even come up with enough money to get enough to, do that if I.
So that particular time, you said, I don't know, something's got to give.
This is just, it's
12 hours in a bathroom trying to find a vein
covered in blood and
covered in blood. Wow, that's powerful. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you.
it's so dull by that point because it's supposed to be used
Yeah.
not like 100 times.
Yeah, that's a scary moment. That's a
And
long
at that
moment.
point, I had to find 2 people I trusted that I would have them go in my neck because I was, like I was going in the palms of my hands. I
Mhm.
almost lost a finger. Like it was
Mm.
lots of stuff,
That's lucky that you made out of that. Really, really, really are. And mom, as a parent, can you think of a particular day, time, or week that your nerves were just absolutely shot? You couldn't find her for 3 days? Was that it? I mean, or was there another time? I mean,
there's I think probably, her being out of sight and out of communication was the most terrifying thing.
mhm.
But probably second to that, Natalie did overdose in her bedroom, and I found her, and I froze, and
Did you have at that point? Did you have the
Narcan.
did you have those?
We did, yeah, we did. I screamed for her father. Her father went and got it, and was able to bring Natalie back.
And where do you put that?
know.
Where do you have to stick it?
Nose. Yeah.
Oh, it's a mist?
Yeah.
There's 2 versions. There's an injectable and then there's the mist.
Okay.
And it was a mist.
Okay. Well, I just, again, for people watching, who knows who's watching? A parent could be watching, right? Might be going through the same thing. There is that help out there if you do find a loved one in that situation, which is horrible. So you found her overdose. You did the procedure, called the ambulance.
Actually, we didn't. Her father brought her back, and it's kind of sounds like a strange thing to say if you haven't really experienced it, but they're back, and
it's about all you can do.
It's really all you can do is bring them back, and as much as it sounds silly, but there's really no need to go. If they're back, they're back.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you sharing this story. This is gonna touch a lot of viewers. Again, this is not just inner cities and people that we don't know. It's people that we do know.
Exactly.
And then we don't know until we know, right?
There's a lot of people, especially those with strong stigmas, who go, well, I don't know anybody like that. And it's like, well, you reacting like that is why you think you don't know anybody like that. But you do. They just don't feel comfortable enough to tell you.
And following that, Natalie, and then I'll go to you, Christine. For kids that are watching, teenagers that are watching, if you had to tell them something about your experience and how to cope and what not to do, what would you say to them? If somebody was sitting in front of you right now, obviously the answer is don't do it. But what would you say to them? Listen, I know. Go ahead.
I know it's hard. I know it seems impossible, but there's other ways to get help. There's other ways to escape. There's other ways to get through it. And there's always a chance to get better and for things to get better if you keep going. If you don't keep going or you sabotage yourself, and if you do happen to find yourself in that situation, just do what you can to get out before it gets too bad, because you'll do all the things you said that you would never do, and you lose a ton of friends. And
No, it's tough. It's hard. It's but that's important that that you bring that message to people, because there is somebody out there right now who needs help, and the only way that you can give back is by teaching others that there is hope out there. So I appreciate you sharing that.
I remember when my best friend died, that people were like, oh, so, and I remember we clicked because I'm not going to go into details, but her father also had a job that you wouldn't expect that child would be, using. But I remember everyone being like, oh, there you go. There's your reason to get clean. There you go. You like, you're set. And it just wasn't like that. It was like, I have one coping skill. I lost, my best friend, which was probably my only other coping skill. Like, then what do you think I'm going to fall back on? But to this day, like, I hope that,
Find a support system, right? Right. You would tell somebody, reach out, parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, friend, and cousin rather.
Anyone you feel comfortable talking to, and
Right.
do it for the people that weren't able to get that far.
Yeah, so true. Thank you. And Mom, if you were talking to a parent, what would you say to them about their child, and how could they cope with it, and what about the light at the end? Just keep going, keep supporting. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say to never say never. Never say not us. I don't think I did say that. I don't think we ever said that in a bashing way or an arrogant way, but didn't think it was going to happen to us. When it does appear that it's happening to you, face it, educate yourself, but really, truly don't give up. There is another side to all of it. Take care of them, but also it's okay to take care of you too. There's help out there for all of you. I mean, it's not one size fits all, but Natalie was everywhere. We went everywhere for help, and it seemed like nothing was working. But looking back, I think a little bit of everything formed together to make her whole piece.
If one thing doesn't work, try everything else.
Keep trying.
It's the same thing for just about anyone.
Keep trying it and stay committed. Stay consistent in that help, right?
Yep, and committed to each other.
Yeah,
definitely committed to each other. I mean, you've got to say we're going to do this and we're going to do it together.
So we're not always going to be perfect while figuring that out, because it's uncharted territory for most people.
And if there's one thing I can say about the system, the justice system, people, don't need to be locked up because they have an addiction or a problem. I think people, if you are selling, right, I think that's a different story, right? But the addiction part of it, people need help. Okay, we need to have more help out there in all cities for people, because as we can see that it's not just in their inner cities. Okay, it's in all towns of all races and religions. Okay, so I think there needs to be a lot more support on the local government level, and then going on to state and federal government level. Okay, these people need help, and that's what we should do for them as our fellow citizens. Okay, so Christine, where can we find the book? Okay, about Natalie.
About Natalie is available on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. You can reach us at christinenaiman.com. If you reach out, we'll reach back. And that's it. I wanted to point out one last thing. Natalie and I consider ourselves way too blessed not to give back. And we are contributing the majority of the proceeds of the book to Highmark Allegheny Health Network, towards their efforts towards helping people with mental health issues and addiction issues.
That's great. That is wonderful. And guys, we will put all that information on getting in touch with Christine and Natalie and about the book in the description underneath the video. So you can get in touch with them and get the book that way. Okay. So guys, listen, this was great. I enjoyed it as somebody interviewing, and the topic we talked about, I believe it hits home with a lot of people. It's important to discuss. Okay. And I thank you for sharing your stories and getting in so deep with me today on this podcast. So girls, have a wonderful evening, and we will talk soon, and I'll be reaching out to you via email, and have a good one, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Bye-bye.
Take care.